Good afternoon. I'm Steve Gill, the Sports Information Director at Sacramento City College. Today being joined by Athletic Director Mitch Campbell, also the Dean of Kinesiology, Health, and Athletics. And also joining us on the panel today are some of our Sac City Panther coaches. Derek Sullivan, Coach Sullivan, our baseball coach. Danny Walker, Coach Walker is our football coach. And Marissa Avendano, Coach Avendano is our women's cross country and women's track and field coach. So thank you guys for taking the time out of your day. I appreciate it. I'll start like I did last time when we had this Q&A. Just one, hope that everyone tuning in is staying safe and healthy, given the circumstances that we're all going through nationwide, but also out here in California with the wildfires and so many of us being affected by air quality and evacuations and whatnot. So having said that, I'll jump right into the Q&A. So, right now we're in unprecedented waters still as we sit here 6 months removed from the 3C2A canceling our spring sports. Fall semester is in full swing. Classes are online, so we're in that virtual reality. We're operating under the 3C2A approved contingency plan, which has shifted all sports into our spring semester. So Mitch, first question for you, based on that announcement, and aside from there being no sporting events currently and through the rest of the fall semester, what's been the biggest change for the athletics department this fall?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Steve, and my colleagues, fellow coaches here. Really appreciate the chance to speak with everybody for a little while today. It's really been quite a whirlwind the last 6 months. It just seems like, every day, every week was bringing kind of new news and not always great news. In answer to your question, I think first and foremost, it's been a morale challenge, for lack of a better term, just in terms of all of us kind of coming to grips with, look, this is happening, and what do we do? What do we need to do as an athletic department and coaches and staff to turn this around as best we possibly can, and from my perspective, be both optimistic, but do all we can to prepare our student athletes for their future and their future academically and athletically. And so there's been many silver linings. One of them, I think, is how really our staff has come together and really enhanced our communication and our determination. So I think it's just a challenge to really keep that going, to understand that this is going to end eventually, and we want to make the most of it. We want to view it as an opportunity. So I think that's been the challenge. And from my perspective, I think we've been responding tremendously to it, and anticipate we're going to continue to do so.
Great insight, Mitch. I appreciate that. And I guess to segue, based on some of the stuff you touched on, I'll tee it up for you, Coach Walker. How are you specifically engaged with your team and your student athletes, and how do you keep them motivated in a time where you're not able to have that face-to-face interaction to keep them both physically and mentally ready for the season in the spring?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for allowing the opportunity to be on here to speak on this. I think more importantly, during this time that we're in, not having the face-to-face contact has put our student athletes kind of in a disadvantage, just because we as coaches and student athletes rely on that face-to-face contact for development mentally more than physically. And I think during this time that we're in right now, I think we have been addressing the mental side of it as opposed to the physical side of it, just because of the sudden change in their regimen, to having to go online learning, to not having the opportunity to come to the facilities to train, to not having the daily touch in terms of checking up on their academics, having those conversations face-to-face, sit downs in offices. Those are all very important pieces to their development as young men and young women. And that's something that we probably have taken advantage of and seeing where we're at right now. but truly indeed, that's really what it comes down to. And just trying to keep them motivated to, number one, stay in school. I think that's the driving force, because with school comes the opportunities to do the other things that they love to do, obviously, which is get on the field. I think that's the most important, staying motivated, building camaraderie through each other from a peer standpoint to through the Zoom network, just trying to get them to spark conversation, to be there for each other, to understand we're all going through this together. So those are kind of the motivating factors or motivating conversations that we're having with our young men. Trying to touch them at least 3 to 4 days a week, 4 days a week. Trying to have them touch their teammates 3 to 4 days a week. So, it's time consuming, but it's good time being spent, I believe, to prepare them mentally once the opportunity presents itself for us to get back together and then start training physically to prepare for a season. And, right now I told these guys, it's not about competing for a season. Right now we're trying to compete against the process that we're dealt. And the process is a virtual world. It's learning about ourselves and who we are and what it's going to take to be successful. It's challenging times, but at the same time, challenging time presents who we are. And I think if we can overcome some of these challenges, we're going to be prepared for the season. We're going to be strong for the season. And I think it's going to start mentally. And those are the things that we're trying to address and keep these young men and women motivated to do the things that are going to require them to be successful once that time presents itself.
No, that's awesome insight. And while you didn't specifically say the word adversity, I think that's, pretty much the premise of what you were talking about. And coaches, you can attest, and Mitch, with our purview of athletics, that's something we deal with day in and day out, and something we are constantly, striving for our athletes, our student athletes, to overcome the adversity, the unknown of a situation that happens that you didn't prepare for potentially. And, as well as all you coaches prepare your student athletes, there's ultimately, that mental toughness gets you through that situation that we didn't script or we didn't prepare for, in practice. So appreciate that insight. Switching gears and kicking it back to you, Mitch, as I mentioned at the top, the 3C2A contingency plan that we're kind of operating under at this point, where all the sports have shifted to the spring. There's also other guidelines with that, one being 30% reduction of schedules. The association has announced that they will not host any state championships for the 2021 season. What other changes or adjustments are being looked at in order to compete safely and return to play in the spring semester?
Yeah, there's really a whole host of issues that come with potentially playing all of our sports in the spring. And I'll say unequivocally, I can't wait. I hope like heck that we have those challenges to overcome. When you talk about the nuts and bolts of dealing with getting our student athletes and coaches back on ground, practicing and playing, virtually every organization that has done that so far, and we're talking about the big time Division I football programs, the power conferences, and professional sports, has involved testing. And so that's something that is frankly a big challenge for our community college system. It appears as though there's some, more readily available, affordable tests are coming on the market. We certainly hope that the spread of the disease, as measured by the government and California Department of Health, slows. It needs to. We need to get down into a moderate level or below, minimal level. The logistics that maybe you're referring to in terms of trying to put all of that together in the spring, all kinds of scheduling issues, as you might imagine, with all sports going on at the same time. Our staffing, our athletic trainers would be spread thin. All of our event staff, the officials for all of the sports, the travel, the buses, all of those things are requiring a great deal planning. That planning is ongoing. We're hoping that we get a chance to implement it. So we have to be positive and optimistic. At the same time, we have to be realistic with each other and our student athletes. But you can bet that all of us are doing all that we can to try to get this thing put together. So hopefully, I'm not sure if that was a direct angle you were looking at, but that's the thing that came to mind when you mentioned that, Steve.
No, and you hit on some of the challenges and probably, just to again offer a little bit more insight here. So at Sac City, we have 17 athletic teams, and we're talking about all of these 17 sports competing between mid-January and mid to late June. And so obviously there's challenges there, and you hit on it a little bit, with scheduling, the resources, there's enhanced safety protocols, social distancing requirements still. So can you share some insight of how the processing of scheduling the practices and games does get sorted out with that kind of challenges all coming to a head?
Well, the practice scheduling, we've got a schedule ready to go that I guess would be an incremental schedule. We'd start off with just every student athlete being able to come on ground an hour a week to work out. But the great hope and the reality is, if we're competing, that's going to escalate quickly to where we would be, especially those teams that are competing, would be on ground as much as we can. In terms of the schedule, we've developed a conference schedule where sports are basically assigned days that they would compete. And even for any non-conference games, we're asking all of our coaches and teams to make sure that we're assigning games on those days so that we can properly schedule. And that's going to be important for the outside constituents too, like the officials and the bus carriers. You think about the officials, if CIF is going to do this along with us, that's going to be a tremendous amount of work. And so, the conference worked very early. We've already got those conference schedules in place so that we can get that scheduling in advance to those groups. So just a little taste, I guess, of what we're looking at.
Appreciate that. And Coach Walker, I'll come back to you for this. With the reduction in schedule and football having smaller conferences to begin with, what challenges are you up against as all, teams in the state are in the same boat of having to cut out contests that they thought were going to happen in 2020? What does your scheduling challenges look like?
I think the challenges would be kind of trying to maneuver colleges who are closer in proximity to competing. I think when they look at a reduced schedule for us, we're a little different than most sports just because we're in a different conference. We're in the Northern California Conference in the Valley. So most of our competitions are going to be within our conference, I believe, and that puts us at 5 games right there, with 2 more being 70%. So finding those 2 preseason games plus 1 with the scrimmage, it would have to be a situation where they were able to work it with the probably close proximity and travel distance for the 2 preseason games. But when it comes to the Valley schedule and our conferencing, that's pretty self-explanatory, working up and down 99 from not Delta, but actually Modesto on down to Reedley, West Hills. So that in itself will work itself out. But I think most of the challenges would come in the 2 preseason games that we would have to not find, but in terms of who's putting the schedule together, trying to put teams that are in close proximity to us. And with us having American River and Sierra right in our backyard, I would guess that those would be our 2 preseason games, which would make it a little bit less challenging in terms of creating a schedule for us.
Appreciate that insight. Coach Avendano, same question to you. Obviously you're a little bit unique as well because not a traditional conference per se. Obviously, I know there's NorCals and traditionally state championships, but scheduling impacts from your perspective.
Yeah, one of the challenges that I see is right away from the schedule that I turned into Mitch like 6 months ago, is that not being able to go to bigger meets and having the need to stay local and compete against the same teams. If we're only allowed to compete against 2 to 3 teams at a time for cross country, it's, a lot of these runners will pretty much be racing against themselves. If you only have 7 to 10 runners per team and you're asking them to run 3 miles, you could see that being spread out and pretty much, the runners will be racing against themselves. The energy of the meet will not be there because lack of numbers. And ultimately, they are racing against the clock, but it does help to have a pack of people to run with and be chasing people. So I just see that as a challenge. Another challenge also, it's, it might get a little bit boring competing against the same teams because we're not like football or baseball where they compete against one team. We pretty much, and track as well. But, like Mitch said, I think if we get the opportunity to compete, that would be great. We'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, as we sit here today, any competition is better than, repeated competition, right? I mean, we'll gladly take that as opposed to the alternative. And I guess from your perspective too, Coach, you're going to be busy in the spring if this goes off as planned. You're going to go from cross country right into track. And so, how are you planning and preparing for that?
Steve, I take it one day at a time, to be honest with you. Right now, I mean, in the summer, I think the summer was even crazier. I mean, Mitch did a great job setting us all up on Zoom calls every week. I think we started, and then we went to every other week, and he was keeping us informed. And a lot of that information was just, the plan, and the plan was being moved over for the next week and the following week. So right now, me teaching 4 yoga classes online, having to keep my track team going, having to keep my cross country team going. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot. So, the spring, I know Mitch said that we're gonna meet with him one-on-one to go over those schedules and what that's gonna look like. And I will start thinking about that when him and I meet. For right now, I'm trying to survive the fall.
Well, and again, I think a busy spring with competition would be a welcome change of scenery at this point. I think all the coaches would agree with me there.
Yep.
Mitch, going back to you. So, with the contingency plan, as I mentioned, those traditional spring sports are going to get a late start, and they're going to extend, I think the date was June 23rd-ish. And so, we're talking extending a month beyond the traditional spring school semester. Any concerns that you see from an AD perspective?
Well, I think there could be some issues that come up with that. I do think, and I'm sure Coach Sullivan will attest to this, that if we're playing and we're coaching and involved in a team with a team that's able to be on the field, and that means that for 3 or 4 weeks that we don't have a class associated with that sport activity. Baseball and softball to some extent are used to that. Derek and the Panthers have been in the state championship 2 2 years in a row, right, Coach? I believe, and that always extends beyond the end of the term. So, yes, at the end of the day, if individuals made a choice that they did not want to do that, that'd be respected, and we would move on. But I don't see those potential difficulties outweighing the benefits that we'd be reaping if we're able to play.
And, you mentioned Coach Sullivan, so I'll tee it over to you, Coach Sullivan. As a spring sports coach, with baseball, and baseball, as many of us may know, is pretty heavy in the summer as well. And so trying to place guys into some top collegiate leagues could potentially be an impact. Any concerns along those lines, or anything else that you see from your perspective?
Well, going back to Mitch's point, and I think that we'd all feel very fortunate just at this point to get our season. So to extend past the semester and be playing games without having classes, at least, again, in the baseball realm, I know softball too, we think that's special, and that's what we play for. The ability to play your sport and not having to mix in class at the same time. It's like professional baseball. And so it's very special. So that's an easy one to get over the hump with. The summer ball thing is, with baseball especially, it's unique. Yeah, that'll probably limit some opportunities, but we don't know what the summer baseball landscape's going to look like anyways. We're not sure what the NCAA calendar is going to be. And so that one's still kind of up in the air. I still think, if you're talking about our kids and looking for scholarship opportunities or four-year school placement, they still place a premium on the spring season in the junior college, or extending down to high school. The summer leagues are not more important than your team during the spring. So I'm not overly concerned about it, but it does limit opportunity, like you brought up. There's a month where there's certain leagues, they'll be going for a month starting Memorial Day, and we'll still be in our regular season. So we'll see how it goes, but we all have to adjust with the adversity that we're presented with, and we'll survive. It'll be fine, and then probably get back to normal within another year or two. It'll be all right.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Mitch, back to you. So at this point, mentioned fully online, no face-to-face interaction, no on-ground training. Has there been any updates with regards to allowing coaches and athletes to get together, even if it was in smaller groups on campus? I know, we have a huge football stadium, that we could do some social distancing, conditioning potentially. Any updates along those lines?
Well, there's been lots of conversations, ongoing conversations. I'd say, unfortunately, while I think we're blessed to work in a community college system that has 25,000 plus student athletes that get incredible benefits from being a student athlete. We work in a district that does a fantastic job. Frankly, our community college system and our district is not one that's set up for specificity or kind of targeted assistance, for lack of a better term. So when we talk about potentially testing, contact tracing, those kinds of base level things that you hear the professional sports and the power conferences doing, it's an incredibly heavy lift for our system. And for us to get back on ground, like I mentioned earlier, we really do need a decline in the spread of the disease. That is first and foremost. We're still in a widespread classification. Now, like we talked about, there's been some positive news relative to more readily available, perhaps affordable testing, but when you're talking about 20,000 students statewide, or even in our district, 1,500 student athletes, testing them a couple times a day is no small feat. And then there's a huge issue relative to all of our other programs in the California Community College system and in the district, and the thought that they would need to have some type of system too. So to answer your question, yes, the deans of the 4 colleges in the district have been in close communication with the district office and Vice Chancellor Jamie Nye, and I think in close contact with all of our coaching staffs. But as we sit here, we're probably waiting for those rates to go down. We're waiting for the 3C2A to give some guidance. We don't know. It could be anywhere from early October through November 6th, which is their next scheduled board meeting for statewide guidance. And those are really the things right now, along with some California Department of Public Health guidelines that we're dealing with and seeing if there's any way that we can make it happen. And so it's kind of a long-winded answer to that question. So while we're not on ground yet, there's a smattering of schools. The perimeter schools in the state have had some on-ground activity, but I think well over 90% of the schools in the state are in the same boat. And so I think it'll be a characteristic of our state that will probably be moving in some way together, one way or the other.
Understood. And, I think you hit on it too, the classification of, us being in Sacramento County as well as the other 3 schools in our district, is obviously a big factor in what we're able to do, from a Sacramento City College perspective. So coaches, I'll go to Coach Avendano first, no direct contact with your student athletes, no contest period. It's been moved to the spring from a cross country perspective, so this is essentially your off season, not just for women's track anymore, but also for cross country. What have you found to be most helpful for your sport in this virtual world?
Trying to get very creative. We've used Strava, the running app, to keep track of their miles and what they're doing. Been sending them workouts. But another challenge is the poor air quality that we have. So one of the things that I've gotten really good at is PowerPoint, and I've made a circuit with the slides, and we put that on Zoom, and the ladies seem to be really enjoying that. They put on music on their own, and just the slide tells them what's next. And I've learned from the help of my wife how to time that, and sometimes it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's a minute, and the PowerPoint does the whole thing. And it's pretty neat. So that's one of the nice things that they're really liking that. And the air seems to be a little bit better today. So hopefully we'll get out there and they'll get out there and start running and when I send them the workouts. But yeah, that's the way we've been doing it. And if you guys have any pointers, let me know.
So online yoga, you mentioned earlier, now it's a freelance online fitness instructor, it sounds like, with your team. So you're definitely staying busy, Coach Avendano. Coach yes. Sullivan, same question to you. What specifically with baseball has been, most helpful for you?
So kind of like Coach Walker with football, not to the same extent, but we've had some in-depth Zoom meetings. The mental game is something that we've always really professed and taught and have a curriculum for it. So we've continued that. That's outside of meeting in person, right? And say right before practice or after, and having those sessions. are largely unchanged. So that's been something that we really believe in, that we've been able to continue. But what we found is, like Marissa said, we can't have our practices, and so we're sending them suggested routines, and everybody is in a different situation as to what they may or may not have access to at home or what's open in their area. We have plenty of out of the area athletes in our program that, and they're not just around the corner. There are some facilities that are able to operate, and so I'm constantly reaching out to see who's open and what kind of access they can provide. And our guys have to go out and pay a facility to practice, and that's wildly different. And so we're trying to look out for them, and but at the same time, we can't require anything because of our situation. So it's just being as connected as we can be, and a lot of that is emotional support, academic support, and all the things that we've done before, but just in greater proportion because we're not out on the field practicing.
Yeah, and everyone is in a different situation, as you mentioned. So, it makes it more of a challenging obstacle course for all of you coaches to navigate those waters, one, it being new and a different medium that we're delivering it through, but also to hit and make sure that you're connecting with all of your student athletes. So appreciate all that you guys are doing. Kind of to wrap up, I'll go around to all you coaches here. And, as we've mentioned, everyone's been thrown upside down, in terms of what we're going through here, and there's been a lot of challenges. There's been a lot of adversity, we've talked to and alluded to. There's been a lot of, trying to figure things out, the day-to-day approach. So let me switch it and say, from your guys' perspective, I'll start with you, Coach Walker. What has been the biggest positive to come out of this from your perspective, from your team standpoint?
From a team span, I'll address myself first. It's allowed me to kind of see things differently from an individual standpoint and kind of work on myself. And I think to myself in terms of, being better, finding better ways to teach, coach, which has been all phenomenal. A lot of people can sit back and look at the negative aspect of the situations we're in and this and that and complain about this and that. But truly, indeed, man, I think it's a blessing for all of us to kind of see where we're at, who we are as individuals, because unless we can address ourselves as individuals, we're no good to our student athletes. And I think having the opportunity to be in this situation for me it's been a blessing, number one, and to be able to take that information and those lessons that I've learned along the way since March to my team and kind of trying to give them the information that I've kind of focused on and to helping myself be better is focusing on themselves. I think when you look at a team sport, you can always get wrapped up in what you're trying to create as a team, but unless they address themselves as individuals, they're no good to that team. So this has just provided an opportunity for us as a football program to kind of address our young men as individuals, number one, to helping them create a better them, the greatest version of themselves, which has been awesome to see some of these young men grow and just the conversations that they're having and the words that they're using to talk about the situations they're in and the strides they're making towards success and being a better person, being a better student athlete. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about sports, I think you win because you have winners. And for us right now, we're seeing a lot of winners being developed through this time. Yeah, it's tough, but at the end of the day, it's all positive. It's positive experiences that I try to have our young men focus on because those are the experiences that are going to allow them to grow as they go through this. The adversity is going to be the adversity. It is what it is. We're dealt with it. So how do we take the positive steps to overcome it? But it's been awesome. It's been great. We like to, in our sport, we like to have young men who are students of the game. So just the virtual world through video, through huddle, through college football film, through NFL film, and there's been a lot of student of the game action been going on. But I kind of look at this situation, this time in life, as a blessing, and hopefully that our young men can see that as well as they go through it. through this time and continue to grow. And when we come out of this, man, just the growth and development of these young men, just as men, is going to help them be better student athletes.
Well said, Coach Walker. And it's really that, the glass is either half full or half empty mentality. And you've kind of hit it head on that, this is an opportunity. The glass is half full. And I imagine, and we didn't talk about it, but I would imagine, just as myself as a fan, being able to click on the TV the past couple weekends and watch college football and watch NFL has probably got some of your student athletes a little bit more rejuvenized and a shot of energy, if you will, just because of what's going on around us. So appreciate that insight. Coach Avendano, same question to you. Biggest positive that's come out of it from your perspective?
Steve, it's interesting. The whole structure that we're so used to, the track, school, the team, is just been stripped away. And what's left is the people. And one of the things that I've gotten is just the clearance of what's really important and the opportunity to get to know my athletes in a deeper level. The opportunity to identify their strengths and to help them focus those strengths on their goals. And I'll be very honest, it's I appreciate them more as people than I'll ever have. And this has helped me remember what an honor it is to support their goals. And I mean, as Danny said, and I'm sure Derek will probably talk a little bit about this. As we run around, especially as community college coaches, where we teach and we coach. There's so much that we do on a every day. And like Danny said, I mean, getting the opportunity to kind of step back and see the job that we have. And I don't know, for me, it has really moved me, being able to really be present to the people that I get to work with the young ladies, both cross country and track, and be really moved and be inspired by their goals. And they're showing up. I mean, we're doing circuit workouts. I send them workouts, and it's phenomenal that where their struggles, with their concerns, and they still show up. And I can't help it but, do everything I can so I could show up too, and show up in a big way, just like they are. And that's what I get up to every morning. It's like, what can I do? How can I show up and be the best person I could be for them? Because that's all I have. And I guess I was born to coach. I was like, I love learning from them. I think I learn as much from them as they learn from me. And it's and like I said, that's just been the biggest thing for me, that seeing that how easy it is to take for granted what we have and not be grateful. And when the young ladies start talking and they start talking about their goals, and they're just there, they're right there. And, I can't help a lot of times to get tears in my eyes and just say, like, wow. And a lot of times I feel like texting Mitch and saying, Mitch, we have some phenomenal athletes, but I know Mitch has his hands full too, and I don't want to bug him, but sometimes I'm just moved because it's I don't know what I've done to deserve to have this job and to be able to do this.
Hey, those
Thank
texts
you.
keep me going, Marissa. Keep them coming.
Thank you, Mitch.
No, and that's great insight. And I think you hit on something too that a lot of people don't understand at the community college level is that you guys are teachers, instructors, professors, as well as coaches, and probably more so than ever in the times we're going through. The coaching hat has been put to a side because we're not preparing for competition, and it's that full-time teaching hat. The instruction, whether that be a school lesson or a theory lesson for your sport, or just a life lesson for some of these student athletes, based on where they're coming from. So I appreciate that. Coach Sullivan, over to you. Biggest positive takeaway, from your perspective.
I think Danny really hit it on the head, and Marissa, again, I went there too. And it's the step back and kind of look in the mirror of, what do I need to do to be better? Because what we've always done isn't good enough. And I think that's a theme in our program. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean it's the right way or the best way. You're constantly looking for, another better way. And right now it's like a constraint drill where you take something away from a player in a physical drill and ask them to perform a task. And, we've taken a large chunk of our normal action away. And, a message that we've delivered to our guys, Danny said, I believe it is what it is, right? At the end of the day, it is what it is. There's a book out there, so I'll steal the title, but we deliver it. It takes what it takes. And whether it's COVID or fires or, deficiency in skill, talent, however you describe it, what all of our student athletes are trying to do, it takes what it takes, regardless of the outside circumstances. And, it's really an affirmation or reaffirming the, so what's next? And we know that that's one of the more important themes at the community college level. You want to get to the 4-year level, you want to do this, you want to do that. All right, what's next? And, there's adversity. And so I don't know that I have a specific, what's the biggest positive, because I don't think we're going to know that for months, another year. We're still ultimately a month into a fall, and we're going to find out on the back end of this what was great. And right now, I feel like a lot of it's just still really uncomfortable to the athletes, to us as coaches, and that's okay. That's great. But that the idea of the grind and being consistently connected to your athletes, whatever the shape that takes, we'll know more about what the most positive things are. I think it's just another challenge, and I always view that in a great light. It's as iron sharpens iron, and this is really, really hard in a lot of different ways. And I think we'll come out of it great, or at least I hope to. That's our goal. And I'm pretty sure at City College, all of our programs feel the same way, and maybe different words.
Appreciate that, Coach Sullivan. Just to wrap up here, one, Coach Walker, Coach Avendano, Coach Sullivan, appreciate you guys taking the time again to give some insight and some perspective. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that it's probably just a snapshot into what your peers and the rest of the college coaches at Sacramento City College are doing in terms of their student athletes, in terms of their preparation, and in terms of their self-reflection, as all three of you guys mentioned it. We've had a chance as probably greater than a community college, but as a society to take a step back and hit the reset button and find out what's important to us and what really drives and what's the motivating factors. And you guys alluded to that very well today, and I appreciate you guys taking the time. We'll just kind of go round table to end up. Any closing thoughts? Mitch, anything from your perspective?
Well, yeah, I'd just like to echo what Coach Walker, Sullivan, and Avendano said, and I'll tell you, Steve, I've just been incredibly inspired by the quality of people that we have in our program at Sacramento City College, and the reaction to this, because it can go a couple different ways, right? I am 100% confident, and I'm by nature a conservative guy. I don't like to say that we are going to come out of this better than we were before. We had a Zoom meeting of all things with student athletes and all of our staff, before the term started. Almost 300 of our student athletes are there. And it's a testament to our coaching staff and the people that are at Sacramento City College. So I'm just appreciative. And like I said, this is going to end. And when it ends, we're going to be better for it. So thanks to all of you. And thanks to you, Steve, for giving us the time to talk.
Absolutely. Coach Walker, any final thoughts?
Yeah. So I read a lot of books by John Gordon. I know probably you guys are all familiar with him. And one thing I've always taken from him is and what I tell our young men is 5 ways to win today. Number 1, control what you can control. 2, let go of what you can't. 3, replace your fear with faith. 4, speak truth to lies. And then 5, believe the best is yet to come. So, we work on that. We believe in that. I believe in that. And that's what I say.
I think we all agree it's definitely going to be better than this moving forward. So thank you, Coach Walker. Coach Avendano, any final thoughts?
No, just grateful to have the opportunity to, work with an amazing coaching staff and to have Mitch as our athletic director and dean. And thank you for having us and doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach. Coach Sullivan.
Again, it's nice to be invited to panels like this and to be able to, express the thoughts, the concerns, the ideas of what our programs are all about. And, especially through unprecedented times like this, it's nice to gather and talk, and, whoever gets a chance to listen to what we're saying, hopefully it helps them.
Absolutely. So thanks again. I'll leave this in closing. As Mitch alluded to, the next 3C2A board meeting is scheduled for early November. So we look to see decision on fall sports that would start mid-January, shortly thereafter. At least give an update and see how the cases are trending here in the state of California. Obviously, we'll keep an eye and keep everyone's, that's dealing with the wildfires, the air quality, keep them in our thoughts and prayers, and hope that all of you guys stay safe. Thanks for tuning in. This is Steve Gill for Sacramento City College signing off.